Yeah, Lions of Syria. I'd like to welcome Johnny Achi, our regular correspondent, and who gives us a regular update on the developing situation in Syria, which has been targeted, of course, by Western imperialism for destabilization, for regime change, to facilitate the exploitation of the people of Syria for their natural resources, as well as potential markets, as well as the military, political, geographical significance of Syria in this part of the world. We'd like to welcome Johnny Achi. Welcome, Brother Johnny.
Hello, Didan. Always a pleasure being on the show.
Can you give us an update on what's going on? I know we have to maintain this constant pressure of educating our listening audience so that we can continue the Congress and the U.S. population's opposition to the United States and its allies and its lapdogs, Arab regime's invasion of Syria. So can you keep us abreast of what's going on?
Sure, Didan. Basically, we have an important date coming up, which is January 22nd. That's been established to be the date for the Geneva Peace Conference. And as I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, from this point until January 22nd, we should expect a lot of, violence. Everyone wants to, of course, improve their conditions when they go to the meeting. Now, we have to understand that, of course, these Islamist factions that are fighting today on the ground, they don't have a place in Geneva. So their main goal is to make sure that they let the world that they are the only ones left on the ground fighting the government of Syria. On the ground, however, so we are going to have 2 bloody months, and it's been happening. The Maaloula, town of Maaloula, which we spoke about a few months ago, Didan, if you remember on your show, when they first attacked it, we talked about the shrines, the Christian shrines, some of the oldest in the world in Maaloula. It is the only town in the world where Aramaic, which is Jesus' language, is still spoken. This town has been ransacked again by the terrorist rebels. They gathered themselves from around the towns and they attacked it with about 3,000 of them. They burnt it down to the ground. The first time they didn't do much damage. This time, all the churches, all the monasteries are either ransacked, burnt, or everything's stolen from inside. They went into Martekla monastery where there's about 15 nuns in there, and they kidnapped those nuns. So these nuns have been abducted about 4 days ago. The Pope spoke about it. Everybody spoke about it. Yesterday we see on Al-Jazeera, of course, Al-Jazeera is always doing that, gain that footage. The 15 nuns have been changed. They wear hijab, like, Catholic monasteries, they cover their heads. But the hijab was changed from that Christian-type style to the Islamic-style hijab. They took their crosses. They wear big crosses. I saw an interview of them just last week. They all wear big crosses, across their chest. It was all taken off. And they were saying that, they've been treated well and, they've been saved, basically, from the Syrian army. Of course, that's under pressure. We know what they've done. And that the FSA said, not the FSA, the ISI said that they were visitors with them. We know what happened the last time they took 11 hostages in Lebanon. They had them 550 days there, captivity, and when they were released, they were telling all the horror stories. So, of course, under the gun, they can't say much, but there are 15 nuns that have nothing to do. And this is a good point to mention. What these people are doing, I just read today an article in the Telegraph about a father taking all 5 of his children, the youngest of them aged 13, to fight for an Islamist faction in Syria. They came across Europe and through Turkey. There's hundreds of families that are bringing father, son. All these people are coming to jihad in Syria. We've seen a lot of families coming from the Caucasus, from Central Asia and Northern Africa. These are all allowed in Syria through the NATO country called Turkey. So we need to understand that these people are fighting jihad. They're not fighting just Christian. I don't want to make this a Christian issue. They are fighting all Syrians, okay? The majority in Syria are Sunni Muslims. They are against these Al-Qaeda fighters. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed to go bring tens of thousands of foreign jihadists. They will use Syrians, but Syrians have refused. So all Syrians today are victims of these Al-Qaeda, Nusra Front, ISIS, that are flocking from everywhere into Syria today. And it needs to be put a stop for it. The Geneva II Peace Conference hopefully will put some pressure on Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Now that we will have an international agreement, hopefully, that will put a pressure on them to watch their borders and stop the flow of fighters into Syria.
I know I read an article in Newsbreak magazine that said also that the Saudi Arabian government and Qatar, among others, are offering something like $2,000 to $3,000 per month for a lot of jihadist fighters. So what's happening? A lot of the unemployed youth. In fact, RT has a big piece they're doing right now on unemployment inside England and France. A lot of unemployed Muslim youth throughout the diaspora, I guess, or throughout the world are coming to Syria because they're getting paid as well as fulfilling what they believe to be a religious obligation to eliminate this secular regime, the most secular regime in the Middle East off the face of the earth because it doesn't promote Islamic fundamentalism. So I think also the economic factor, and of course with the super wealth of Saudi Arabia, can finance mercenaries, basically Islamic mercenaries to come into Syria, as well as we've seen them do this operation in Libya, we see this in Mali, we see this in northern Nigeria. Right. So it's not just a local Syrian issue, it's a global issue that these Islamic mercenaries are being used by Western imperialism and the oil corporations to fulfill their economic and political objective.
I think I've read the same article. It was on BBC, and they talk about 8,000 foreign jihadists from Europe alone, with about 500 from Britain, 500 from France, and this goes on. And that's on the BBC. Didan, Syria is the last stronghold of secular regime in the area. If God forbid Syria falls into the hands of Islamists, Jordan's going to fall. Every country's going to fall. We're going to have a Taliban style with weapons this time, and they're gonna. It's going to become a world crisis. So let's just move on now before it's too late. The United States should stop supporting these mercenaries. They should stop them from coming into Syria. And they should help the Syrian government and the Syrian army fight these terrorists because they're going to eventually go back to each country. And they already are going back to a lot of these countries. And they're going to be causing a world crisis sooner or later.
Well, we have to roll on, but I just encourage the listening audience, if you want to see what Syria will look like, if the jihadists or if the United States' master plan come to play, look at Libya today. Look at Libya today. We thank you, Brother Johnny. From Arab Americans for Syria, Dr. Johnny Achi. Next we'll have Sister Tanda Zizwe.